All right, so today we're joined by Max Nadsady. He is a filmmaker in Pensacola. He is with Rule of Two Motion Pictures, Rule of Two Productions. He recently made Reagan and the Bunny. He also works for WEAR, right? Is it WEAR?
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah, that's
WEAR.
it.
And yeah, he makes short films in the area. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Max, for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So you just premiered Reagan and the Bunny at Chizuko last Saturday or Sunday. I mean, sorry, it's a little
Correct.
early. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. I might be making some flubs over the course of this one, but I don't edit them out.
No worries.
Yeah.
No worries. I work night side at the station, so this is my afternoon. So this
Yeah.
is working around that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. So can you tell us now, for anyone who doesn't really know about Reagan and the Bunny, who might be listening, tell me if this is a good description of it. I've been thinking about this for a couple days. Is that it's kind of a Grindhouse style comedy about two losers who try to rob a bank in order to see their dreams fulfilled. Is that?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I've
Yeah.
I've always thought of it. I kind of described it as a take Quentin Tarantino meets Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I definitely got that kind of Grindhouse feel, sort of like a
Oh yeah,
Planet Terror or Death Proof.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like a comedy grindhouse.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, like Planet Terror, Death Proof. But
Right.
actually, I recently saw that car to Death Proof in the studio. I thought it was,
Really?
yeah, it was super cool. I can't really say much more about what studio it was, but I remember seeing it and looking at my friend and going, "This is the Death Proof car." But so you premiered it Sunday at Chizuko, and there was a pretty good turnout. It was pretty packed. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, I think we had
Yeah.
a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, and so can you tell us like what the inspiration for it was? How did you write it? How was it writing something like this?
Sure. First of all, do you want me to look on camera or look off camera?
It doesn't matter. You
Okay,
could,
gotcha.
yeah.
All right. Well, from the very beginning, the original concept just kind of came to me one day. I was working my old college job at Office Depot, and it was just a slow night, and I just was trying to think of story ideas, and it just kind of this idea came to me. I always liked the idea of mixing genres, of just kind of putting aside, just kind of changing up expectations. If you so happen. I used to have a bunny suit. Just my dad found it one day, and I thought, hey, that was pretty funny. So I thought, you know what? Let's just kind of combine something. So I thought, you know, what's going to be funny than a grown man in a bunny suit? And I thought of the movie Point Break. I didn't even see the movie Point Break. I just know the traditional bank robbers with wearing the president's mask. And I thought, Reagan and the Bunny. Well, that kind of sounds kind of funny. So I just started writing a story from that. I originally was a feature-length idea. I still would like to make it into a feature-length idea. So I kind of just made a general outline, the story from that. And then I just kind of realized, you know what? I can't make it into a feature right now. So I'm going to break it down to a short film and just see where I can go from there. And then I just kind of just started breaking down the elements of the story. And you think, how can I need to get the most important parts of the story into a short. And that's why I kind of figured out, you know what, let me do the unreliable narrator kind of story structure. So that's why I could get the biggest scenes that I had in mind from the feature-length idea, but fit it into a short. Johnny MacPhail, my co-writer, I brought the idea to him. He thought it was really funny. We both kind of have a similar sense of humor. We like to bounce ideas off each other pretty well. And so we just took my rough outline and just went from there. We made our original script, which is about almost 40 pages. And I realized that I really wanted to get this around 20 pages, so about 20 minutes final runtime. So we narrowed it down. We made it just around 20 minutes. The final runtime is about 25 minutes because we added a couple pickup scenes, just to kind of flesh out the short story as much as possible. We started writing about March 2016. We wrote for a few months, and then as we were writing, I was getting means of production ready. We shot end of August 2016. We shot for 2 weekends, and soon after that, I was just getting everything ready for post-production. The movie's been in post-production for ever since September 2016, and I just finished it about earlier that day on Sunday.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing some Facebook posts about some issue. In post production, that's the I wanted to ask you about that because I was watching another another video with filmmakers, and the advice that they gave to young filmmakers is to try to finish your job in post production as fast as possible because it's really easy to lose the momentum. And did you feel that at all with taking a year?
Oh, constantly. And it wasn't my choice just to take my time with it, just because working full time at Channel 3 as a news photographer, that takes most of my time, most of my energy, frankly. So I usually had just maybe a day, maybe a few hours a week each week to work on this. Yeah. And because wasn't as a project I just wanted to slap together and just get it out, I wanted to take the time, if necessary, to really make it stand out. Because this was a passion project of mine. I really wanted to just show my vision as much as possible with the amount of resources that I had. So there were definitely days that I thought, wow, what am I doing here? Some days were better than others. Some days I thought, oh man, this is so funny. This is going to be great. People are going to love this. Other days I thought, oh man, what am I doing? I'm not so sure anymore. Just because I was seeing it, at least with some capacity or the other, every single day. Yeah. Either reviewing footage on my phone, editing it one day, or just kind of thinking about it. I had doubts, of course I did. But I just kept on going, thinking, you know what, I've already gone this far, I got to finish it. Regardless of the turnout, I got to finish this film so I can just move on. And luckily, I think so far it's had a pretty good reception.
Yeah, the thing about when you're making your own film is that you see all the mistakes, and you may even see more mistakes than are really there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and when you actually bring it to other people, they don't see it like you see it, because when you're editing it, you're seeing every single take, you're seeing everything within the frame, and you're noticing absolutely everything. But you got to realize that even though you spent probably hundreds of hours with this, most people are going to spend 25 minutes with it.
Exactly.
So, so you don't have to. Just something for people. It's like you shouldn't really worry as much about what people think, because they probably won't see every mistake that you made, unless it's like very glaring obvious.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, it doesn't help that I'm a perfectionist too. So like you said, you see as the editor, you see every single detail missing. For the longest time, and also throughout this year and a half, I went through almost just learning experience for myself, where when I wasn't editing, I was researching different, not even editing theories, but just overall cinematic filmmaking theories of how to make a film that much more cinematic, and that's much more just richer and deeper and just a much more enjoyable film. The last thing I want to do is just make a cheesy, just simple film that really doesn't have anything to it. So, and actually, looking back, it actually benefited me just watching all those YouTube tutorials, all those theoretical videos. Really, I almost felt like I was getting my master's degree in filmmaking. And I feel like that really helps, and that really shows in the final product.
Yeah, so when you were getting it together, so in between the time that you had the script finished and you go into production, can you take us through maybe how you got a little bit of funding? How did you put your team together? What was very important for you for who you should bring onto the project?
Sure. Well, with this project, my past project before, it was mostly shoestring budget to next to nothing. So I just grabbed as many people as I could that I knew would work on the project. With this project, I really wanted to put at least some money into it that I could, just to really get make this project stand out as much as possible. So it was from the beginning, I thought, you know what, I got to raise some money as much as I can. I made a GoFundMe account. I raised some money through that. And then the rest of it was just through my own pocket. So there reached a certain point where I realized, okay, this is the amount of money I have saved up. This is how much money I have right now. I can only go so far, and that's going to be the difference. Do I want to just use what I have now, or just put my money where my mouth is and make it happen? And to be honest, I'm still paying it off right now. Yeah. But looking back, it's worth it. Now that I have the finished film, it's totally worth it. Concerning crew, there's crew and cast. Certain people of the crew that I've worked for years, over the last few years on different projects, one way or the other. So to the point where if I reached out to them, they said, "Hey, I have this project." I told them about the project, and they read my passion for the project, and they said, "Yeah, totally, we're on." Some other crew members I hired on just to make sure that I can get that professional quality, and like, because these guys are professionals, they do this for a living. I want to just do my best I can to show that, hey, I value your professionalism. For casting, I put out some casting calls online, some Facebook groups, Emerald Coast Film Group. I think I put out some casting calls. Also, just reached out to other filmmakers, say, "Hey, do you know any actors who's willing to do this?" I sent out, for the casting call, I sent out anyone who was interested. I sent out a section of the script, and I asked for a video audition, just so I could figure out, okay, just sort out the people that read the script, the portion of the script that I sent. They liked the project already enough to respond back to me. That way I can see an immediate reaction. Okay, this person has potential for the role, or no, not at all. So then from there, I narrowed it down to a smaller selection of potential cast members, and then we had in-person auditions. And then from there, I was able to make my decisions from the cast members, and I am completely happy with who I brought on. Everyone made the movie their own way.
Yeah, and I knew most of them beforehand, but who was the guy that plays as the mafia boss? Because I think he'll become kind of a fan favorite of sorts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
His name is Rob. His name is Rob Eubanks.
Rob Eubanks. Okay, and he is doing the Scam County thing as well.
Yes. Yeah. He played Rob Eubanks. Oh yeah, Rob Eubanks played Whitey in Reagan and the Bunny, and yes, now he's moving on to bigger projects. He's working with Chris Shadala. He was my director of photography on Reagan and the Bunny, who has his own company that does their own projects as well. So yeah, seems like really everyone that part of my cast are just doing their can just to move on to other projects as well.
Yeah, I had a podcast with Daw yesterday that I'll be releasing actually right when we finish. I'll be publishing it. So yeah, and so Daw stars in it, and so does Kyle Golden. And so now I guess now that we sort of have the pre-production side of things, let's talk about locations. Let's talk about when you have a small budget, when you're paying out of your money and you're trying to find locations, what were the challenges that you faced trying to find the right locations or for the right time, or things like that?
Sure. Well, overall, I try to view challenges as nothing that's going to bring me down. I think of challenges, okay, these are my challenges. How can I make this work? How can I make it creative? How can I be creative with the challenges I have and use them as my something I could as a positive. I have this amount of money. I have this amount of resources. Let's make something cool with that. So concerning locations, first off, just almost like Kevin Smith, how he went about saying, well, I want to make a movie, but all I have is a convenience store. So I guess I'll write a movie around a convenience store. So kind of similar to that, I just reached out to any kind of resources that I had available. The thrift store, for example, one of the crew members, Trey, his family used to work at that thrift store, and we reached out to them. They were totally supportive, and they let us shoot there. Concerning the first scene where the cops, Detective Wood and Slot, are walking down that hallway, that's at Channel 3. They let me shoot there for a couple hours in the afternoon on a weekend. The final scene where the cops are interrogating them, that was an office at Kinematic Entertainment. All the locations, as far as I can remember, they were all they just from friends' locations or friends of a friend or friends of a contact, and they were just want to support local filmmakers. The only location that I actually had to pay for anything, as far as I remember, was for the bank scene, which that was at Old Sacred Heart in Pensacola, Florida. I had to pay a fee for that, and also production insurance, which is a pretty normal thing. Really, frankly, around in this area, people wanted to support artists and filmmakers to the point where they're willing to just let people use their location for free sometimes. You just got to look at your resources, look at the people you know, just reach out, honestly.
So with the production insurance, this may be a bit more of a technical and dry question, but
Sure.
there's a lot of indie filmmakers. They have no idea about even how to get insurance or what insurance entails. So could you just sort of briefly talk us through, how you actually got insurance?
Sure. Realized that was one thing. You're talking about indie filmmakers not really knowing how to deal with it. That was one of them. I always heard about getting insurance from higher productions that I worked on that always had production insurance. When I reached out to a couple of places, the bank scene actually, the location for that, because I wanted something that was recognizable, that could look like a bank, that looked like an older, bigger building. I knew I had to find a pretty good location. I probably had to shell out some money for. So I looked around town. I looked at some of the government buildings, and they were actually one that said, "Hey, you can shoot here, but you need production insurance." Oh, okay. I guess I have to go. So I have to go with this now. And they actually gave me a couple. They gave me a couple suggestions for that. I just did some research on Google Productions. The best ones there. Research. Throughout this whole movie, if I didn't know anything, and if the people around me, my community, didn't know anything, Google search. Different filmmaking blogs. NoFilmSchool.com has helped me a lot. It's just really taking the time to research. If you don't know anything, take the time to research. That's what helped me with this movie. Pre-production can help you in so much. The more you do in pre-production, the easier your production, really post-production, is going to be.
Yeah, and I mean that's for sure, because if you go in there with no plan, it can fall apart so easily. And
very quickly.
Yeah, and people get pissed off too. You won't get you won't get as good work out of people. So taking it a bit more, I guess, in the side where it's not as dry. As far as the actors goes, was there any sort of rehearsal time before? Did you have Daw and Kyle meet up and act with each other? What was it like? What was it like going into it from directing the actors' perspective?
Sure. Well, going into this production, I knew we were not going to have a lot of time for pre-production. As I just said, take your time to research. We were dealing with the time available. I knew that certain resources were only going to be available for a certain time. So I thought, you know what, I just got to make the best with what I got. So with my principal actors, I believe everyone except Rob, I brought them. We met at one point or the other a couple times just to read through the script, at least get them somewhat comfortable with the script. So it's not just a fresh read and they have no idea how to interpret the characters. That was really important for me, is to go through the actors and just kind of have them read through the lines. There's something that was off or not as right, we would fix it right there. We'd talk about it. As a director, as a filmmaker, I like to talk about the film with my other cast and crew members. This is a team effort. Everyone's involved in this. It's not just my name on it. So really, that's why those people are there. If I knew everything, I would do everything myself, but I don't know everything. That's why I have these other wonderful, talented individuals helping as well. So it was between myself, Johnny MacPhail, my co-writer, Will Phillips was one of the producers, Margot Crane, another producer, and Chris Jadala. Between those was my solid, and really Jen Full Rodriguez, who was very much just an assistant for everything. She was just Reagan the Bunny assistant, everything. Between those, like that solid group, we were just kind of going back and forth of, okay, this works. This is how I think the character would be. In the end, it was my production. I'm the director, so I would have the final say so. But I always love to hear just input from the rest of my crew members. So being that said, yes, whenever I had a couple of opportunities for the cast to come together, just recite the lines just so they understand what kind of characters they're playing. Rob was the only one. He was actually out of town for most of the time before production. So he was kind of on the spot right before we were setting up the warehouse. I was just going over the script for him. He had the script before, so he knew, he was rehearsed. He had the dialogue down. But just that face-to-face, we were just that was a last-minute deal where as soon as I got to the warehouse, I was going over with him. And luckily, he did well, so I wasn't concerned.
So I have to point this out because
Sure.
I've been looking at it this entire time. Magnus Gallus, right behind you. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Well, going into this movie, I wanted every possibility for a joke. If there was a possibility for a joke, there had to be a joke. That was visual, dialogue, what have you. That's going into it. That's why I thought I was inspired by Mel Brooks and some of these visual comedy filmmakers, is that a lot of comedy films don't take advantage of that visual aspect. Granted, Reagan and the Bunny had a lot of dialogue, but I tried to do as much visual in this as possible. So with the bank scene, I wanted some sort of background to make it look like, oh, that's a bank. That's not just some location these guys used. And so I thought, okay, what can be the bank? What can be the bank be called? And I remember talking over with Johnny and Will, and just being dudes, I just thought, Latin is it, like a lot of banks are in Latin. So what's big dick in Latin? And as you see before, Will actually designed this poster. I just told him Magnus Gallus and work around with that. Yeah. And I thought, let's just be another just little inside joke that people who don't notice it, they just think, okay, that's just a bank name. But the people who are actually really paying attention, it's another little joke that they can laugh at.
Yeah, and I think that is important for comedy, because so much of modern comedy relies just on improving lines. And if you go back to the comedy of the 60s and 70s, there's so much going on in the background and visually, I always think of with that, I think of Jacques Tati, but as far as Mel Brooks goes, I think of when they're literally combing the desert, with a fine thick comb.
It's just silly stuff. Oh yeah, it's silly, but it just adds to the film. Instead of just another boring shot that doesn't really add any laughs, doesn't really add to the story, why not just take that extra minute, think of something creatively, think, okay, how can this benefit my film? Especially if it's a comedy, how can I get just an extra couple of laughs?
Yeah,
just to keep the film going, because the pacing for a comedy, the pacing is so important that you don't want to lose your audience. You want to keep on going, keep that energy going, if you could say.
Yeah, and so on a comedy set, how do you foster, I guess, a bit more of a comedic attitude or atmosphere on the set?
Sure.
What did he go through to do that?
Sure. Well, just as a director overall, my style for running my set is I want to make sure everyone on set is having a good time. Doesn't matter what kind of movie we're shooting. We could be shooting the saddest film or the scariest film. I want all my cast and crew to just make sure that they're okay. Make sure that they're properly hydrated, that they have food, and they're just, like I said, having a good time. So that's very important to me. I would just remember when I could, I'd make my round. Hey, all right, hey, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Just that little bit, I feel like can go so far. Concerning comedy, it's just try to keep, kind of going off of that, just trying to keep the atmosphere, just trying to keep the environment lively and fun. We're here to do a job. We're here to be professionals and get this movie done. But at the same time, it's a comedy. We're supposed to laugh. So it's just trying to keep that energy, trying to keep that atmosphere just fun and just enjoyable for everyone, really.
Yeah, and I remember the thrift store scene being particularly fun because there are all those weird old machines that were everywhere that everyone was playing with in between takes, but also how when we would do the shots of them entering and no one will see it. I'm thankful that it, I didn't see this when I watched it, but a lot of us are hiding behind the shelves, and pop. You know what I mean? We're if the camera, hiding behind the shelves, listening and trying to look at a monitor or something like that. I do, I do remember that. There's a, that was one thing. It's too because we were kind of gunning that sometimes we had to be in that same space as the people, but sort of just hiding where we wouldn't be seen by the camera. And so on the set, I noticed a poster, or when I was watching the film, I noticed a poster for Last Night, and that was your previous film, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and was that Fantastic Fest that played at? It played at a horror festival, right?
It did. It played. I believe it it was submitted. We submitted to a bunch of films. I was the editor and director of photography and one of the producers on that film.
Yeah.
Will Phillips directed that. So he was in charge mostly of film submissions on that point, because at that point, as soon as I got done editing last night, I was writing Reagan and the Bunny. So he kind of handled the submissions for the film festivals. I know it was entered in a few festivals. I believe one Best Slasher. I can't remember exactly the festival that won, but it won Best Slasher. And I thought, again, throw it in your background, always just kind of creating that depth in that film. Mm-hmm. So in that scene, the living room scene, I just wanted to make it look like these two losers. Their passion, the passion is movies. They love movies, all kinds of TV, cinema. And I thought, I'm gonna just give myself a bone, just throw something, a little inside joke in there, put my own movie poster in the background. Why not?
and hey, you can have your whole poster. You don't have to worry about any company coming after you. you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Johnny painted that, right? Did Johnny make that one?
Actually, I took the last night poster. That's a still from me. The Thing poster, the poster from The Thing. He painted that.
Okay, and he made the poster for Reagan and the Bunny, right? Johnny did.
Actually, yeah. We actually have a few posters available. There's been one that was at the show. The one that was at the showing, Johnny did paint.
Yeah.
Jen, she made one. She's making some prints out of it. Margot's currently making one. I think Will made one. I made one. So we actually have a pretty good pool of talented artists, either graphic or fine artists in our crew as well. So I thought, you know what? Hey, let's make a few posters, just kind of different interpretations.
Is there going to be?
The poster at the festival.
Oh, I was going to say, is there any way for people to get a hold of these posters sometime in the near future?
Yes, actually, currently right now I am setting up more of a presence for the finished film online. I can't post it publicly on YouTube or Vimeo or anything like that, because I've been told it disqualifies a lot of time for festivals. But I will make the posters available, more information about the film available overall, including, I'll be making soon a crowdfunding site to raise money for festival submissions as well, because like I said before, this film is a proof of concept for me. Its life doesn't end as a short film. This was always a feature film, so my plan is to take this as the short film. Johnny and I were currently writing the feature script of the story. We'll be using the short film in the scripts. All right, let's go from here. So with that being said, like I said, as of now, I just finished the film. I'm just trying to make more of a presence online for that. So if people are interested, they want buy a print of the posters, that will be available in the near future.
Okay, cool. And so what kind of festivals are you looking to submit it to?
At this point, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing research to see what are the best festivals that will suit my needs. Of course, at this point, I just want people to see the movie. I want people to talk about the movie. I want people just to hear about it and think, Reagan and the Bunny, that's a weird title. I want to look into that. So I go from just the smallest festivals to the biggest ones. Whoever I think will really enjoy the movie, whoever I think it really fits their taste, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just researching what the best festivals are for that.
Yeah, because each festival, depending upon the director, whoever makes the lineups, they have different tastes. Right. And so, just so people who are listening know, submitting to festivals isn't cheap. It's pretty expensive.
No, it is not.
Yeah. It's.
Oh yes, definitely. They range from free to hundreds of dollars. It really depends on the festival and when you submit.
Yeah, and if you submit it last minute too, I mean that is ugh. And
you'll pay for it.
Yeah, you'll pay for it. You probably won't get in. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times too, when you submit to festivals, and I've learned this mainly just from working on the festival end of things, but sometimes, a lot of times, just submitting your film and nothing else, they won't really consider your film if you don't submit posters or if you don't submit a bunch of other stuff. They call it like a package.
EPK.
Yeah, and so you have to so you have to think of that as even more money that goes into these submissions. It's a whole it's a whole process. It's like you have to pitch your film to them before they even watch your film, but you're paying them to, you know what I mean? It's a whole thing. So Yeah.
There's a sea of competition out there. There's a sea of competition out there. So you have to do everything you possibly can to make your film stand out. And that goes beyond just the film itself, like you're saying, your posters or your promotional material, everything that goes along with it, anything that makes your film stand out.
Yeah, and you have to do all the marketing yourself. These festivals, they won't do it. They don't
Oh yeah,
care about the film. I mean, because especially if it's a short, right? Because you get shown typically in a shorts block. So
right,
all they care about is getting people to see Shorts Block 3 or Shorts Block 6 or something like that.
right, right.
But if you want, but you want to stack the crowd in your favor. Because, I mean, that's,
Oh yeah,
yeah, like, and it can be harder sometimes with bigger festivals like Toronto or Sundance because you probably don't have that many friends in Toronto or Park City, but you will get industry people looking at it, so you have to, but then maybe you can have a better life as a film if you go to festivals that people are interested in that genre in particular.
exactly. That's why I feel like Reagan and the Bunny is going to get the most life out of these smaller, more niche festivals that kind of have these specifications of these kind of films. And that's really, that's at this point, that's what I really want to happen with the film, is just to get people as many people watching it as possible, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could definitely see it working at something like South by Southwest, Fantastic Fest. Those are on the bigger end of the spectrum. But I don't think it would work at the Cannes Film Festival because it's not 20 minutes of longingly looking at something. You know what I mean? It's more that's more in the European, like
This is definitely a fun. You can say this is a fun movie. It makes fun of itself. It makes fun of movies. It makes fun of everything. So there's certain people I'm sure will not care for it, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own taste, and hey, that's just going into this. I wanted to see, what can I do a comedy? Because I know comedy is one of the, if not the hardest film genres to make, and it was a challenge to myself. I thought, can I do comedy? Then after this, I could do a romantic comedy or a thriller or a horror. I don't want to restrict myself to one type of movie, one type of genre. So I thought, what, let's make a comedy. Let's make it work.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of up and coming directors, they think that they want to be auteurs, as they say, and and they think, oh, I gotta just get really good at making one specific kind of movie. But then if you look at the auteurs or whatever that they look up to, you'll see that those directors have done a lot of different kinds of movies or a lot of different genres, like Richard Linklater. I mean, he's made like teen comedies, but also like kind of art house films and thrillers and sci-fi. And
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, but it's and there's a lot, even Tarantino. I mean, he kind of goes across different genres as well. Edgar Wright, heist movies, and then romantic comedy with Scott Pilgrim, although it was,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like I think if you want to be a filmmaker, like you shouldn't limit yourself to one particular style or one particular, you're gonna have your own. It was something like what Wes Anderson said, and Wes Anderson said that he always he always went into each movie. He wanted to make all of his movies very different. Of course, a lot of people think Wes Anderson's movies are all the same. But if you look at them, his first movie was a crime comedy. It was about these. I was kind of reminded of Reagan and the Bunny. Kind of reminded me because it's about these two losers who decide to pull off heists. You know what I mean? And they rob a cold storage facility. And then his next movie is a teen comedy. His next movie is a family drama. And then it's like an adventure film. And then it's like and then it's a road trip movie with the Darjeeling Limited. Then he does an animated Roald Dahl adaptation. And then a romantic comedy with Moonrise Kingdom. And then a heist caper with Grand Budapest Hotel. And now he's doing a Japanese movie. And it's like, but his style is persistent. And he says it's almost like his handwriting.
Oh yeah.
Because he knows what he likes, right? And that's what can make people know who you are as a director, because you know what you like, you know how you want to tell these stories. So there is going to be a link, but you shouldn't limit yourself as to what kind of story you want to tell, because I don't think anybody wants to listen to the same story over and over again. But then again, I could be wrong. People keep buying Coldplay albums, so.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But kind of talking about, a lot of times too, when you work in one genre, a lot of times it can benefit you working in a completely different genre.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of big time directors, they started in horror, and you still see them in their work today. The biggest name, Spielberg, he started in horror, and you can see it benefits his future films so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a lot of, Sam Raimi started in horror as well with Evil Dead, and then he went into comedy. But the horror aspect of it, it's funny how horror and comedy sort of are on like a singular spectrum. As I like to say, that, one end of the spectrum is comedy, one end of the spectrum is horror. And if the horror is, you can have the horror be really funny, but if a comedy is really bad, it's a horror to watch, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. A lot of the people I work with today, I met working on a project called Entity. I don't know if you heard about that a few years ago.
Yeah.
They're trying to release a film based on the Slender Man concept. The film was never released, but that was really my kind of introduction into horror filmmaking. Before, I didn't watch a lot of horror movies beforehand. I like horror, I just didn't watch a lot of them, so I didn't know too much. So this was kind of really my baptism into horror. I was learning more from a production side. Then I started watching more horror movies. Then after that, I just kept working on multiple horror projects, either my own or other people's. And that kind of, looking back, that helps me in all kinds of projects I work on today. Even Reagan and the Bunny, I feel like there's a couple of suspenseful moments where you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. You kind of have edge of your seat kind of deal. So I feel like just working on different genres can only benefit you.
Yeah, and in horror too, you have to really develop. If you want good characters, if you want the horror to be good, the characters have to be good, and you have to develop them within the first act, because once the horror starts happening, and usually it's in the second act, about halfway through, that the horror really starts ramping up, and you have to have the audience rooting for these characters, and so you have to work hard so that within the first, maybe if it's a 90-page script, so then in the first 30 pages, you can have likable characters that the audience can root for. Or maybe unlikable characters, but that the audience can root for, like Don't Breathe. I don't know if you saw that one. But the characters are all...
I'm not sure I have.
It's where it's like these kids, I mean, they're like 20-somethings that break into this guy's house, and he's like blind, and it's all dark. But he's like ex-special forces.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. That was a good one. It's with that. It's with.
I read some.
Oh, sorry.
I was saying I read some. I read somewhere that people like to think of write likable characters. I read somewhere that not necessarily likable characters, but relatable characters.
Yeah.
You can have a character that's completely a horrible person. You think, oh my god, I don't like him at all. But there's still a part of that character that I can relate to. I can relate to their faults. I can relate to their aspirations. So I think going into Reagan and the Bunny, some of these characters, of course, I know they're not going to be likable. They're not that. All of them are just not that. Except maybe for Jen, all of them have their faults. They're not that great of people. But I was in writing them, trying to develop the characters. I tried to make them just relatable in one way or the other.
It's the Seinfeld characters.
Right?
They're all terrible
people. Exactly.
And if you can't make them relatable, make sure you get a very charismatic actor. Yeah,
exactly. If you yourself can't make the character, let the actor do their job. Let the actor find that character, and that's so important to really put the time, energy, and often money into finding good actors. Mm-hmm. You could have a killer production. You can spend a lot of money on production value, equipment, or your crew, but if you have a faulty actor, it could make your whole film fall short. So that's very important. Take the time, find the right actor.
Yeah, and for people like you and me, we'll see the technical faults in a film. Like I'll look and I'll see, oh, that lighting isn't that great for that shot or something like that. But most people don't see it. What most people see is, oh, this actor is really hamming it up, or this actor is phoning in this performance. That's the thing that most people see, because that's what because like when I watch a film, I like to listen and watch for everything that I can see. But you got to understand that when most people watch film, they don't really care about that, and they just care about the story and the characters. And if the actor is really messing up, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just going to ruin the experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's why I believe really you make your film character driven. Story driven, yes, is very important to have a good story, have a good plot that could just really expand your film. But if your story doesn't have well defined characters, it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be memorable. People are going to lose interest. Not going to be. It's at that point. It's just they're just watching noise and flashes on video.
Yeah, and the thing is that they've said like all the stories have been done, and pretty much all stories have been done, and what people draw from are myths or legends or older stories, but repackaging it to the modern era. And so it's like, yeah, stories are good and all, but what really lasts with people are the characters. I mean, one big example of that is The Breakfast Club. Just because I just recently bought the Blu-ray of it. But, at The Breakfast Club, man, people are still talking about the characters. And it was released in 1984. And that movie has a very just kind of loose story. It's just kids in detention just kind of talking to each other. And it's like a cultural touchstone for American movies, and especially teenage culture in the States. And it's like,
oh yeah,
all it is characters.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
it.
And and it's the same thing with going back to Seinfeld. The Seinfeld stories are usually stupid. They're just up to the worst things, but people just love the character. Kramer, and especially my favorite's Costanza.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, think about it. We don't remember Seinfeld for their glorious stories or the glorious idea of ordinary people doing ordinary activities during the day. We remember the stories. We remember Kramer.
Yeah.
That's really comes down to.
Yeah. You remember? Yeah. Oh my gosh. That has to be like one of my favorite shows. But yeah. So then. This may be a little off topic, but your production company is called Rule of Two. I just want to point out, I'm wearing a. If you want to explain to the audience what Rule of Two stands for.
Sure. Well, going into making Last Night and Reagan, really started with Last Night. I was for Last Night and for Reagan and the Bunny. I partnered with Will Phillips, try to pull our resources together and just try to make these films. And for these two films, we wanted to create some sort of entity for us. And we thought we were going back and forth. And I'll admit I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I thought we were thinking, well, it's just us two and Rule of Two. It's just us two making it happen, making it work. Rule of Two in Star Wars mythology, it's the Sith kind of. It's a Sith belief that you have one person to crave the power and one person to master the power. Both of us were kind of just the masters, I like to think, but it was really just us two just making these movies happen.
Yeah, and I was I was watching some Star Wars theory about. Again, this is a little off topic, but I was watching some Star Wars theory about why there's two Sith and you have a bunch of Jedi, but the Sith are ultimately a lot more powerful because there are only two. And
right.
But how much kind of a messed up system it is, because the Master Sith would have to know that his apprentice would overthrow him and kill him one day. But that's almost like eugenics in the Star Wars thing, because it makes it so that only the absolute most powerful people can be the master and apprentice. So just a little Star Wars
well,
theory.
Going back into talking about that was the aspect of really before the Sith, when they were in Legion, like the Jedi, because the Sith are so power hungry, they were just killing each other off to the point where that just watered down their most powerful leadership and really just leaders. And so that's where at least in the extended universe, Darth Bane decided, you know what, that's not this Jedi, that's not the Sith way. Really, it comes down to one to master the power and one to crave it, and that's how they lived in the shadows. That's how they were rumors, just scary stories for a millennia.
Yeah,
I could talk about Star Wars theory all day long.
it's actually it's pretty fun. I mean, I grew up playing Knights of the Old Republic and all that kind of extended universe stuff, and that's always pretty fun. So so do you have any plans for after Reagan and the Bunny?
Right now, I've been tossing around a little short idea. I'm shooting. I've been planning around. I've just called Demon. I've been talking about it with my girlfriend Jennifer. She was Jen and Reagan and the Bunny. Just a little short that I want to do before I move to California. Oh yes, I'm moving to California, Los Angeles in March of this year to pursue editing for film. Yes, to pursue editing for film and TV. Along with that, I'm going to be taking Reagan and the Bunny, the short, and the feature script with me to see if I can get this picked up in any way. I'm going to just keep on submitting it to festivals, have it on that festival circuit, and then just see where I can get it picked up from there. That's my biggest goal. That's my next big goal, is to see where I can take Reagan and the Bunny from here. Johnny and I, we already have an idea for a trilogy of films that involve the Reagan and the Bunny universe that goes back a few decades in time. We have some pretty cool stuff planned out. I don't want to say too much right now, but stay tuned. But yeah, that's my biggest projects right now. I want to just, even with, like I said, I'll be focused on editing for my day job, just working on, because editing is my passion. That's really my specialty. I love editing. So I'm going to be focusing on rising through the ranks to be an editor for film and TV, but still on the side, keep working my own projects, because you never know. One, it keeps you fine-tuned in your craft. Two, it's just a release where you can always just work on your own project. You can just kind of extend your creativity. And three, you never know where those projects can go. So I'm just going to, it sounds cheesy, but I eat, drink, and sleep film. I can't stop thinking about stories. I love stories. I just want to tell stories for a living. That's what I want to do.
I think that goes for any filmmaker. You're only going to make it if you make it your absolute life, So just
you're only as good as your last project.
Yeah, exactly. So one quick question: what do you edit on? What's your favorite editing software right now?
Being an editor, I try to be knowledgeable of all the major platforms. For the longest time, I've been cutting on Adobe Premiere, but on Reagan and the Bunny, I cut on Avid Media Composer. One, because I wanted to pursue editing profession in Los Angeles for film and TV. I know most of the shows are cut on Avid. Premiere is getting more popular, even with Final Cut Pro. But really, Avid is still king for a lot of big shows and features. So yeah, going into Reagan and the Bunny, I know I could cut on Premiere easily. I know everything about it. But I thought, you know what, I want to give myself another challenge, give myself some hands-on experience working on Avid. So that was a great experience as well. There was times where I had a question, but I really didn't know. And unfortunately, around this area, Pensacola, not a lot of people use Avid. We use it at the news station because of its multi-user interface, which really makes our operation successful. But beyond that, not a lot of people use Avid around here. So it just came down to me either figuring out or just searching blog posts down. But so I'm pretty well versed in Avid Media Composer. For also Reagan and the Bunny, I use DaVinci Resolve for the coloring. That helped me so much. That really, when I was coloring in DaVinci Resolve, I realized, oh wow, I have a movie. This is turning out to looks like a movie. So I used that for the coloring and the grading. I used Pro Tools for the sound design, sound mixing. Again, that was a software I've never used before, but I know that Pro Tools is the industry standard for sound mixing, sound design. So that's where I threw myself in there, just learning as I went, found tutorials. That's from there. So it was Avid Media Composer for editorial, Resolve for coloring and grading, and Pro Tools for sound design.
So was it easy jumping from Premiere to Avid? Are they like diametrically different? Or is there a lot of stuff kind of in between that if you know how to do it on Premiere, you can probably easily figure it out on Avid?
Yes and no. I did have some prior experience with Avid because I use it every single day at my job as a news photographer. But there's only so much that we do with Avid with our stories there. There are some similarities between Avid and Premiere. It's still a nonlinear editor. There's certain operations that are similar, but Avid does have a learning curve. There are certain things that Avid does differently that is with Premiere. Avid is very, very customizable, so you can pretty much tell it to do anything you want, but you need to know how to tell it essentially.
Yeah.
But if you want to be an editor, learn Avid, learn Premiere. Those are the two big ones right now. You can't. It can only benefit you to learn the major editing platforms.
Yeah, and Premiere is what I use because I think it's
Most
probably
people
easier to
use
jump
Premiere.
into. Yeah. And just so that people who are listening that don't know much about editing, you brought up the term nonlinear editing. Nonlinear editing refers to basically how we edit it on a digital platform rather than on a flatbed. Because back in the day, like before the 2000s, everyone edited on a flatbed where you would literally have a strip of film and you'd have to cut it, and it was linear,
right?
But now you can mix and match it all and have a lot of fun with it. And
oh yeah, it's a lot easier. I've done, even at Channel 3, we have a couple older editors, even like clamshell editors. That's a hybrid. We use digital card media, but it's still linear editing. So that's a kind of a weird hybrid.
Yeah.
But even I've had a little bit of experience with that, and I can say that I prefer NLEs any day.
Yeah, same here. And some people still. I was looking at Photochem in Burbank. They're a big post-production facility in Burbank, California, and you can still have them deliver dailies to you on tape to edit. A lot of people still do edit on tape. They edited Boyhood on tape.
Wow.
On videotape, and then yeah. Funny enough, story here. Here's a little bit of a nightmare story for that I think you'll appreciate as we're kind of coming to an end. Is when Boyhood was editing on tape, their tapes were in 30 frames per second, whereas they shot 35 millimeter film, so it was 24 frames per second. And
oh no.
So when they actually cut it to film, their sound was like out of sync or something like that, and it wasn't exactly what they intended. So for the final, of course, it's not like it's a 20-minute film too. It was like it's almost 3 hours long. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of these, and I think editing is really where the movie gets made.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I've read somewhere that if you can't see the editor's job, that means the editor did a good job, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. But if if anyone listening wants to get into it, I mean, there's a ton of YouTube tutorials but no editing software is free. No good editing software is free. Like, don't use Windows Movie Maker.
Actually, Avid, if you want to learn Avid, there is a version of Avid I think it's called Avid First, or Avid Media Composer First, where it's essentially the whole Avid Media Composer suite, but for free.
Oh, really?
You can only have so many. I believe the limitations are you can only have so many tracks available. So there's certain things you can't go as much into detail, but the overall interface, I believe, as far as I'm aware of, it's completely the same.
Okay.
So if you want to learn about Avid, if you want to like be an editor for a TV show, like a professional editor for TV shows and stuff like that, that's a good way to start out. DaVinci Resolve. Not only are they, not only is it free, but DaVinci is on its way becoming a full-blown audio suite for free. I haven't personally cut on DaVinci Resolve, but for what I heard, it's pretty nice. So there are different, even if now at this day and age, there's no excuse not to make a film.
Yeah.
Even if you have to use your phone in Windows Movie Maker or iMovie, it doesn't matter. There's no excuse anymore. Yeah. Really, if you have the resources to get a better production, get a better platform like Premiere, Avid, Final Cut, things like that, go for it. But there's no excuse not to make anything nowadays.
Yeah, I forgot that DaVinci has the editing how you can actually edit on it, because I use it for coloring, and it's really great for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have it for free. Um, it was open. Yeah, I don't know if it's open source or not, but it's free, and I know they have a studio version now you can purchase, but I don't have that kind of money.
I think the only difference in the purchase version is I think there's some output, some codecs that are meant for theatrical distribution. As far as I'm
Okay.
aware of, the free and paid version are very similar. There's just a little bit of extras that if you're shooting something for, like I said, for a theatrical release or something like that, you would want the paid version. But for most everything else, you can do it in the free version.
Yeah, on Premiere Pro, you can export as a DCP now.
Oh, excellent!
Yeah, you can.
Wow.
So, that saves you a lot of money, because it used to be you had to
Yeah.
like send it to somebody and pay a bunch of money to export as a DCP. But now, yeah, but don't export just anything as a DCP, because those files are huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
you won't be able to use your computer for about a week, probably, with a normal computer. But
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. So Max, yeah. So this is coming to the end. Do you have anything that you want to shout out?
Well, like I said, Reagan and the Bunny we just finished Reagan and the Bunny. It's going to be in the festival circuit soon. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We will be having a website soon. I just need to get that started. Like I said, I'm in the process of moving right now. I have a few weeks left until I drive out of the state. So that's my main focus right now, but we will have a website up. We will have more promotional material up. We have posters available. And anyone interested in the film, just please look us up, Reagan and the Bunny. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Um, we're making it happen. We made a movie. We're gonna keep making movies. We're gonna be making this into a feature. If you like comedies, if you like Grindhouse, if you like thrillers, you like action, you just wanna just go against expectations. Check us out.
All right. Well, thank you, Max.
Of course. Is there anything else you need to know?
No, I think that's it. I'll put a link in the description to the Facebook pages.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, Max.
See ya. Bye.